What if the beat that beckons? Not the thunderous throb of triumph, but the subtle sway of a shadow in sync with the soul. Unlocked not just movement but the manacles of a muffled mouth, the pulse of hip-hop hammering like a heartbeat half-heard in your chest, the salty sting of sweat on your lips like unspoken words finally freed, palms pressing against polished floors that echo with the faint, rubbery squeak of sneakers seeking solace, the clean scent of gym air mingling with the musty warmth of exertion's exhale, and spotlights splintering into silhouettes where a boy's body bends, breaking barriers built from breaths too broken to speak. This is the dance of deliverance, where hope's hesitant hum wars with despair's dirge, sacrifice the silent step binding silence to self-expression, identity a freestyle forged from the fragments of fears unspoken, evoking the raw release of Billy Elliot's defiant leaps in a coal-dusted town, not in ballet's grace but in the gritty grind of hip-hop's hustle, one underdog's uppercut underscoring the universal urge to unleash the unspoken self amid the syncopated strife, one stutterer's sway, a stage's unwitting summons, what bottled beat in your body yearns to break the bars, bursting toward the breakdance that breaks you free. On October 5, 2025, as autumn's amber rhythms rippled through global streams, Wandance, a hip-hop homage harmonized from Coffee's manga melody, debuted its premiere episode, the inaugural impulse in a 12-episode groove that glides from self-doubt's shadows into spotlights of synergy, inaugurating an arc where dance drafts the dawn of discovery. It captivates from the cadence's cautious crest, a high schooler's hesitant hover over hidden harmonies, a classmate's confident cascade captivating the crowd, and conflicts coiling in the corridors of conformity, teasing the torque of trials without tipping the tragic tempo, like the tentative taps in Step-Up's streetlit showdowns, where one rebel's rhythm ruptures the rigid. It drops you onto the dance floor's glossy gleam, sneakers squeaking in your soles, the bassline booming through your bones, as if your stutter stumbled upon salvation's sway. Have you ever felt a flow fracture your facade, its flux a fierce reminder that the self you suppress surges strongest in silence's shadow? That's the groove here, not the dancer's debut, but the drum in your depths demanding how does one misstep mend the muted mouth. Step in, the spotlight sways, seductive with steps untold and the fluorescent flicker of a high school hallway, where lockers loom like sentinels of sameness, echoing the envoys of famous fervent footfalls where one audition awakens the artist's ache. This premiere pulses from the manga's maiden measures, Volume 1's Chapter 1 Genesis, no prior episodes to prelude. This pilot's plunge, thrusting Kaboku Katani from verbal voids into visceral vibrations. A stutter-stricken student sidelined by speech's shackles, Kaboku's world warps when witnessing Wanda Hikari's whirlwind whirl in the hip-hop club's hidden haven, her fluid flair fracturing his fortified facade like a freestyle finally freed. As peers pressure conformity's cadence, vignettes vivify vendettas veiled in verbal vitriol, friends' taunts twisting like toxic tangos, a coach's call catalyzing clandestine cravings, all funneling toward a fulcrum where footsteps forge the first fragile bonds. It's a taut tempo. This episode, from isolation's intro to immersion's interlude, beats building like breakbeats. What whirlwind warps the watcher's whisper? How does a single sway summon the storm? You linger there in the locker room's linoleum limbo, sweat's salty sheen slicking your skin, the club's concealed cadence calling from the corridor, pulse pitching to the prick of potential, parched for the plot's poignant progression. The credits cascade like a cool down, but the curiosity's crescendo, coiled, crashing, coaxing you to chase the choreography. Episode 1 advances the narrative like a breakbeat building to a drop, measured yet momentous, faithfully filching manga's chapters 1 to 2, the initial inspiration and club convergence, into a rhythmic ramp that ramps from reticence's rest to resolve's restless rise, fidelity to Coffee's core cadence sands the source's sprawling sidesteps on street dance slang. Revelations resonate restrained, Kaboku's concealed craving for expression, Hikari's hypnotic hold as harmonic harbinger, a cliffhanger creaking with convened consternation as club doors crack open to concealed conflicts, pretending partnerships perilously poised on performance's precipice. No narrative non-starter. Instead, a groove from prologue's pulse to poignant pivot, pacing a poignant poise that parcels introspective interludes with impulsive impulses, dramatic denouement echoing the manga's meticulous meter, where exposition emerges emergent from emotional echoes rather than enumerated encyclicals, fan-queried cloudy aspects, Kaboku's stutter's symbolic sway, stammer's shackle or synergy's spark, Hikari's hold hasty or harbinger of harmony. The club's cryptic culture, overtones of ostracism ominous or oasis of outreach, the arc's abrupt abutment to dance tropes without granular groove glimpses, evaporate under manga's mantle. Chapter 1 codifies the speech impediment as strategic symbol, a silent syncopation per Coffee's commentary in Kodansha compilations, Kaboku's constraint a catalyst contrasting dance's deliverance, the anime's abbreviated allusions, a sidelong stammer at schoolyard scorn, Hikari's hypnotic hold, honing this. Without harangue, the club's cadre evokes ensemble escalation, their inclusivity a ironic inversion per Chapter 2's undercurrents of underdog uplift, resolving riddles with rhythmic retrospection from the source's stratified steps. Its erudite escalation, this episode, alchemizing ambiguities to allegros, reminiscent of Billy Elliot's balletic breaks, where one leap lashes the latent. Here, it invites you to intone the intervals, senses steeped in the sway. Kaboku kernels as kernel's kin, his reticence a rampart against relational roulette, motivations moored in manga's mournful marrow, stutter stigma as salve for solitude's sting, choices like club's clandestine call a coda to concealed cataclysms, wounds well in wistful wanders, peers pressure as prickling pang, dialogue desiccated yet dawning depth, surprising in its subtle surge towards self-assertion, transformative as Chapter 3's nascent nod to narrative nuance. Hikari haunts as harmony's herald, her flair a filigree of fortitude, growth glimmers in gregarious grapples. Manga's undercurrents unveil her as anchor's apprentice, utterances unyielding yet unveiling yearnings for yield, consistent in confidence's cadence yet cracking in compassion's clutch. The clubmates curl as comic counterpoints, their energy a lark in the lurch. Their silhouettes sharpen as sonatas. Kaboku's halt, less halt than harmonic harbinger. Hikari's hold, a fissure in facade's finery. Were they transformative? Tellingly, akin to Step Up's streetlit sparks, where one rebel's rhythm rouses the reticent. I think Kaboku's quiver quickened a chord. What stifled sway in your step summons the soul's subtle song. Dancing here delineates not mere motion but meaning's meander. Does constraint's cadence carve character, or corrode the core's quiet core? It palpitates in Kaboku's quiver, wrestling world's wolf in woven worries. His halt's a harmonic of humility and hidden heat, and Hikari's flare, morality's measured meter where sacrifice seasons the section's soul, hope's halting him against despair's discordant drone. Beyond beats, it burgeons in the club's ambit, a Kierkegaardian quiver querying can cacophony catalyze consensus, the criticized claim the chorus, resonant as Flashdance's fervent footfalls, where one welder's whirl welds the wounded. Its sinew-strung speculation, sinuing steps to our own stratified struggles. In the steps of the stifled, what silence summons your solo? Lore layers lightly like lace on a locker. The high school habitat a haven of hierarchical harmonies, where hip-hop clubs cultivate cultural crevices, cliques as cadence's crucible, complicating the cosmos with manga's Chapter 1 codicil of urban undercurrents. Dance as deliverance's dialect enriching the ether without excess. The gym gleams from gym to grove of growth, its axioms a archipelago of anomalies that allure as they augment. Script sings sharp as a sneaker's squeak, poetic in its phrasing's precision, lines like Kaboku's stuttered starts cliché conquered, laden with lore's levity, impactful as incantations that abide after applause like Sorkin's salvos, crisp, crescendoing, conjuring the clamor beyond the curtain. Foreshadow flutters and flourishes, resonance in refrains that reverberate post-premiere, such as Hikari's hold a hypnotic hymn carrying harmony's heat. Its prose that pricks, each phrase a prompt. What whispered wisdom from your wounded whirl might whirl the winds of wonder. Artistry evokes an etude's elegance, fluid fingerings fracturing finery, symbolism in sapphire spotlights, azures aching against amber afternoons, channeling Step Up's kinetic keys in keener keys, where lighting limbs longings lace, shadows schooling steps in silhouette's subtle surge. Stillness in Kaboku's stare sculpts suspense's sigh, movement in melees measure a maelstrom of meticulous momentum. Beauty betokens bond's bittersweet bloom, molding mood as a maestro's murmur, majestic, melancholic, it mirrors marrow. Kaboku's ken contracting to cloistered concerns, Hikari's expanding in enigmatic expanses, Usti orchestrates as oracle's overture. Motifs of muted marimbas murmuring through beat swell surges, elevating entreaties to epic's edge, silence and scrutiny suspension shriller than shattered staves. Did that suspended sustain, mid-measure, mimic the maestro's muted gasp, incising like quill on quivering quaver? The ensemble embodies as echo's essence. Kaboku's siu layers laconic, longing over latent luminosity, timbre a tempered treble that trembles on threshold's brink. Hikari's delivery, a velvet vibrato laced with valor's vice, intensity incarnating irony's itch. Standouts soar, these soliloquies, not narration, but necromancy, notes that nestle in neural nooks. This episode etches with an elegance that's equal parts exaltation and elegy. The dance's defiant drop dented my defenses like rain on reluctant rose, wonder welling in the warp of will's weaving, moments of mirrored measures leaving lacerations of legacy, scars of solidarity sparking subversive shudders. I felt fissured, a fire in the rhythmic aura, echoing my own encores evading emptiness where one ovation overthrows the ordinary. Shrouded in spotlight's shimmer, the zenith zips as zealots zephyred in zealous zenith, a schism where savior's sway shatters, symphonies shifting like Save the Last Dance, salvaging steps birthing ballads from breakage. It iterates immortally subtly. In the idiom of the inherited, does one discord defy the dirge? You harbor it, this harmony, philosophical phonemes patterning private psalms. What faltering fingering from your faded fanfare might fan the flames of forgotten fire? The resonance rings, unrelenting, retune, and revel in the requiem's rapture, reverse reading the rests. Pacing's prologue plod, fans decry as diffuse in drama's dawdle, reframes as rhythmic requital, a stylistic simulacrum of symphonic simmer, mirroring the manga's meditative measures to marinate the melody's marrow. Drama's dosage might dilute the dulcet, yet its thematic truss, tethering tussles to trenchant tunes akin to honey and clover's gentle gnaw where quiet claims the quick. Vocal variances veer in vibrato's vice, but this vivifies the visceral, vivisecting vanity's veil. Admiration anchors, discerning dissection defers to delight, imperfections as intervals in an interlude of incandescent idiom. Episode 1 triumphs in tuneful tenacity and thematic timbre, its nascent notes nuance a nimble nudge. It consummates its conceit, catalyzing clichés clef into cathartic concerto, narrative nerve netted with nocturnal nuance. To mute the melody is to miss the movement's muse. The beat beckons, inviting your input. What if this hesitant hip-hop harmonized your halts, one stutter sway salvaging the silence within? The floor flares, relentless. Flow forth, and let the dance deliver you whole. Have you ever felt the floorboards creak beneath your bare feet in the dead of night, there grown a clandestine confession, not of wood warping under weight, but of a body yearning to sway, tasting the salty sting of sweat on your upper lip as shadows stretch like unspoken syllables, the faint echo of a distant bass thrumming through your veins like the pulse of a history half-remembered? Or inhaled the musty mingling of gym mats and adolescent anticipation, where the air hangs heavy with the promise of motion, brushing your skin like the ghost of a partner's hand, urging you to step into the spotlight despite the stutter in your soul? In Wandance Episode 2, Dance Club Gender Ratio, aired October 16, 2025, this clandestine cadence pulses through the series' embryonic arc of self-discovery, extending Episode 1's serendipitous spark, Kaboku Kotani's stutter-silenced world igniting in the flicker of Hikari Wanda's freestyle fire, into a tentative tango of clubroom camaraderie and inner inferno, echoing the defiant dances of Billy Elliot in the coal-dusted pits of Thatcher-era England, where steps shatter societal shackles like glass ceilings under defiant heels, or the rhythmic rebellions of West Side Story's street-bound lovers, leaping across divides of prejudice with pirouettes of passion. It confronts identity's insistent rhythm. What melody emerges when the voice falters, but the body speaks? I stepped away swaying. The episode's intrigue a seductive syncopation, gentle in its grooves, yet grooved with a gravity that grips like gravity on a grand jeté. Can you hear it? That muffled thump of soles on sprung floors in a sun-dappled studio, the chalky residue of rosin dusting your fingertips as eyes lock in mirrored mutual challenge? The scene doesn't dictate the downbeat. It dares you to drop it, each unspoken step a summons. What unspoken symphony might your own silences summon if you surrendered to the sway? From Episode 1's fortuitous fusion, Kaboku's basketball-bound existence fracturing under Wanda's whirlwind whirl, her freestyle flair a flare in his fluentless fog, this second spin spirals into the syncopated sanctuary of the dance club, where gender imbalances tilt the tempo like a turntable off-kilter. Kaboku, tentatively tethered to this new terrain, navigates the nuances of novice moves, isolations that isolate his insecurities, footwork that fuses his athletic antecedents with alien artistry, all under the watchful warmth of club president Onikawa. Wanda, his unwitting muse, weaves in with whimsical wisdom, her presence a pivot point prompting private practices that pulse with potential. Club discussions drift toward distant duels, freestyle festivals that frighten as much as they fire, while external echoes from Kaboku's basketball brethren beckon him back, their pull a poignant tug of war. It transitions the tale from solitary sparks to shared spotlights, each rehearsal a ripple radiating toward rhythmic reckonings. Envision yourself in that sweat-soaked space, the squeak of sneakers sinking to a heartbeat heightened by hesitant glances, the faint floral whiff of Wanda's shampoo cutting through the communal musk like a secret shared in Shakespearean soliloquies. Does the imbalance unsteady your stance, or does its asymmetry summon a defiant duet? The narrative notches its notes nimbly, each measure a murmur of the mayhem masked. What unbalanced beats might the next bar betray? Episode 2 choreographs the chronicle with the grace of a well-rehearsed routine, advancing Kaboku's arc from incidental ignition to intentional immersion, revelations of rhythmic roots, basketball's bounce bleeding into breakbeats, blooming into a twist of tandem training, where private practices propel partnerships, culminating in a cliffhanger that teases team trials amid external enticements, pacing pirouettes with purposeful poise, languid lessons yielding to lively leaps, balancing dramatic weight like the ebb and flow in Nureyev's balletic biographies, introspective isolations amplifying the ensemble's eventual eruption. Equilibrium medium endures, though fans fret over cloudy aspects. The club's compulsory curriculum. Why mandate motion in a modern milieu? Wanda's unchecked eccentricity, a flair that flares without full feedback. Kaboku's stutter, a silence that sings yet seldom stumbles the script. Drawn from manga's chapters 3 to 5, Coffee's serialized steps in Weekly Young magazine, commencing 2019, where the adaptation amplifies effective accents for animated allure. These mists move as motivic maneuvers. The dance mandate, detailed in Chapter 4's digressions as a junior high relic, square dancing sessions, symbolizing societal sync. Kaboku's opt-out and outlier of awkwardness. Not anomaly but allegory for enforced expression in Japan's extracurricular ethos, clarifying confusion as cultural cadence. Wanda's whimsy, expounded in Chapter 5's asides as unbridled authenticity. Her pure dance face a deliberate dissonance against club's critiques. Her freestyle fervor a foil for Kaboku's formalism, enriching the real with relational rhythms. Kaboku's impediment, inferred in interstitial inks, underscores nonverbal narratives. His minimal missteps a meta-choice mirroring manga's motif of motion over monologue, transforming opacity into operatic overture. This step doesn't stumble, it strides, sinking silences as Saga's syncopation. The dancers deepen with dynamic dexterity, souls spun like spot turns in spotlight's glare. Kaboku coils as the core's conflicted conduit. His veiled vulnerability the vice of verbal voids, stutter scar a souvenir of social sieges. Motivations meshed with motion's moxie masking marginalization's malaise. Choices, embracing embarrassment in isolations, entreating Wanda's wisdom, consistent in their cautious cadence yet transformative, surprising in a surge of self-surrender that shatters his shell, evoking the emergent energies of Jamal in Finding Forrester's scripted sanctuaries, where words withhold but worlds unfold. Wanda whirls as whimsical whirlwind, her hidden hunger for harmony beneath the hype, growth glimpsed in guiding glances that ground her gusto. Onikawa orients as optimistic overseer, her encouragements an elixir of empathy, consistent as choreographed compulsions, transformative in the routine's revelation, yes, evolution etched in every extension executed. The episode excavates expression's elastic enigma, potency's provisional pivot in performance, where ethics elasticizes in the embrace of ensemble, ablation the oblique offering of oblivion for the oracle of otherness unveiled. Past placards, these pulses proliferate via pursuits. Kaboku's cadence a philosophical pivot on presence's potency, incarnating in Wanda's whims, freedom's fragments as filial fortitude, a subsistence signal echoing Nietzsche's Dionysian dances or the sacrificial spins in Black Swan's mirrored madnesses. Does aspiration's arabesque armor the anima, or does despondency's downbeat delineate the divide? Onikawa's oversight probes the precipice. Community as cadence, determination's a dance of divergence reclaimed amid conformity's crush. Mythos multiplies meticulously. The club's cultural codex, gender gaps gapped by freestyle freedoms, competitions as communal crucibles, embellishes the expanse with edicts of echoed existence, where hip-hop's heritage twines with high school's humdrum, convoluting the chronicle with convergences of culture and crisis, history's hip-hop heroes haunting the hyper-real hallways. Coffee's composition, adapted with Arter's artistry, lacerates like a latent lock, incisive as an inset icon, lyrical in its laconic lilt, transfiguring trope into trenchant toasts. Kaboku's quips quiver with quiet quirk, presaging partitions that pulse post-pull like the poignant pleas in Billy Elliot's ballet-bound ballads. Wanda's whimsies, yoked with yokel yowls, reverberate with the roar of renegade refrains. Potent, pervasive, each locution a lure of legacy and levity, legating you to the lore. Catch Onikawa's optimistic overture overflow like a coach's cry in strictly ballroom sequin skirmishes. Does it hone your heart, this oratorical oscillation? The lexicon doesn't lecture, it leaps, each lacuna a lure to the legend lurking. Madhouse's mastery manifests in mercurial motion, fluid flurries of freestyle fervor, forms flickering in flexible finery that symbolize shifting semblances, science swells stark against scholastic Cepius. Lighting layers longing, lantern-lit lulls gilding gatherings, umbras undulating in uncanny upsurges to evoke existential entanglement. Stasis in Kaboku's ruminative repositions relents to riotous rushes of rhythm, beauty a bittersweet brew, not bauble, but beacon, the counterpoint of chroma and crepuscule chiseling catharsis from chimera. The vista's verve, sweeping shots of spot turns mirroring multiplicity's maelstrom, proximate portraits pinning pupils in pantomime's pinch, montages measured. Measures mirroring mimesis that magnifies malaise. Akin to Aronofsky's Black Swan gazes into the gulf. Configurations cradle cataclysms, each vista a vault for the viscera's vaulting. The score summons as spectral summoner, incipits jaunty jangle gelling into jaunty japes, hip-hop hooks surging like sepia specters, bewitching blanks with balladry's bomb, apotheoses ascending in anthem assaults that abrade like artificial adversaries. Quietude quests quintessentially in quartered quarters, a refrain redolent over Suwazanakawa, a velvet vibrato laced with laryngeal ache, coils camaraderie with coy craving, enunciations excavating the echoes, and snaring you in the sonics as if your timbre might temper the tumult. This episode etched an exquisite unease, euphoria's echo ebbing into empathy, wonder wakened at Wanda's whimsical whirl, scars from Kaboku's yearned yet yoked youth that scar like the calluses of ceaseless counts in Flashdance as Steeltown sweats. Moments of mandated motion left luminous legacies, sparks in the freestyle's sudden surge igniting an insurgent introspection. The climax converges as cadence's cataclysm, a destiny's duet where pulses precipitate into packs, refracting the rhythm's raw reality. It summons eternal queries. In the dance of our defiant dreams, do we dissolve in the downbeat of doubt, or does the freestyle's fervor forge the heart's haphazard harmony? Feel that flicker, reader, comparable to the dancer's dilemmas in Save the Last Dance's cross-cultural crescendos. Raw, relentless, rippling through ribs, the reverberations remain, a routine unrepeated through reverse reading, the contemplative cadences, pacing's patient pirouette, the opacity of clubroom compulsories, might murmur as muddle, intricacies ink rusting into incomprehensibles, yet reframe. These are rhythmic radicals, thematic throbs echoing coffee's choreographed canvases, where veils of vulnerability invite the viewer's vigilant voyage. Kaboku's quandaries a deliberate decrescendo to the dawn. Appreciation arcs over critique, visceral virtuosity as vanguard, though a brisker bridge to broader beats might bolster the beginners. Balanced, it's a breaker of brilliance, frailties as fervent fortissimos. Episode 2 triumphs in its tangled tapestry, character crevices carved with capricious care, narrative nuances navigating nebulae of nexus, an artistic assault that alchemizes coffee's chronicle into tactile tumult. Weaknesses, whispered in the wings, fleeting phrase informs flux, occasional overload of ostinatos. It succeeds, supremely, a spell of step and soul, narrative notes nailed to the nexus. Yet ponder this, the call that coils like a cue unspoken. What if the rhythm you resist is the one that rhythms your resolve? Watching isn't whim, it's the thrum through your toes, the descent into the dance where your dormant duets demand their due. Step forth, the freestyle awaits your flourish.